To be honest, I think this book's about 90% trauma, 10% really good quotes, and I relate to that because my personality is about 90% trauma, and my therapist and I are working on that. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Emma and today I'm going to be reading The Perks of Being a Wallflower for the first time. Total disclaimer, I have watched the film before. I really love the film. I think I've watched it 2 or 3 times, so I do know the story. However, I've never read the book, which is really out of character for me because I usually read the book before I see the film. And although I've heard that the movie is very true to the plot of the book, I've heard that the style is quite different in the book and that it's just a really fantastic read, so I thought I'd give it a try. So I got my copy of The Perks of Being a Wallflower from my local library. I'm actually due to hand it back soon, which is a shame. This is totally your sign to go and check out your local library. Libraries are great and a lot of them also have online ebook apps as well, which you can use to borrow ebooks as well. So please, if you haven't checked out your local library, do. And with that, let's get into the video. So guys, that's me just finished part 1. I had a quick flick through the book and I discovered that I think there's 4 parts, so I think I'm just going to check in after each part and those will be listed in the chapters below. So my thoughts after finishing part 1 are mixed. The book is told in the format of a series of letters from Charlie to an unknown recipient, and I knew about this format going in, but I didn't realise how much I wouldn't like it. So I'm not really a big fan of the format so far, but I am a big fan of the voice and the writing style. Now, there's like a really awkward part in part 1 which I just didn't think was believable really at all. And I thought the book would have been so much better if it was left out, and that's the fact that Charlie doesn't know about masturbation and what masturbation is, and then he sort of makes some comments to Sam and Sam realises he doesn't know, and I think it's eventually Patrick that explains things to him, and then he sort of gives us a little bit of a detail about, wow, like, it's really fun. And I don't know, like, as honest as it was, maybe I'm just a prude, but I found it awkward and unnecessary. Also, the domestic violence plot with Charlie's sister in the book is dealt with a lot better by the parental figures, I think, than it is in the movie. And I also think it's dealt with a lot better by Charlie than it is in the movie, because he actually does tell an adult, which is the best thing to do if you have a friend in one of those situations and they are underage. I thought book Charlie was a lot better at dealing with that, and I also admired how the parents actually stepped into the situation. Another big part of why I think a lot of people love The Perks of Being a Wallflower is the life advice that you get from it. It's a very quotable book, and specifically in part 1 what stood out for me in that respect was Charlie's dad giving him the advice, not everyone has a sob story, and even if they do, it's not an excuse. As someone that frequently makes excuses for people, I think I might take it on board. Also, another thing that's not covered in the movie but is covered in the books is that Charlie witnessed a sexual assault at his brother's party when he was a bit younger. Still in middle school, I think. I don't even really know what age his middle school is. You can leave it in the comments, but definitely below high school, so maybe about 10 or something? 10 or 12? Wait, actually no, Americans start high school later. 12, 13 maybe? Maybe 12, 13? Let me know in the comments if you think that's right. But when he was a bit younger, he witnessed a sexual assault at his brother's party, and that's not mentioned in the movie. Obviously, I've seen the movie. Charlie has his own trauma in that realm, and seeing that must have been awful for him, and I'm sure anyone would need therapy after seeing that. To be honest, I think this book's about 90% trauma, 10% really good quotes, and I relate to that because my personality is about 90% trauma, and my therapist and I are working on that. I can already tell that this book is going to be really great at covering hard topics in a way that's not preachy and just honest, which is why I think so many teenagers still relate to this book. I love the fact that there's no sugarcoating, it's just real, and it's absolutely gorgeous in terms of writing style so far. That's all I've really got to say about part 1. We'll see what happens in part 2, 3 and 4. So that's me just finished part 2, I'm really loving it so far. I'm really loving it so far. It's been nice to read outside because it's nice and sunny for once. One thing that really bothered me was that Sam's sexual assault at 11 was really glossed over in the book. She was kissed by her dad's boss, and I was hoping to get a bit more of that in the book than we did in the film, but it was just as glossed over as it was in the film, which I thought was a bit disappointing. I was really wanting to hear more about that particular aspect of her character, and I was hoping to explore more of a sort of female sexual assault angle in the book, but that didn't really happen. Something that I'm really enjoying about the book so far, though, is Charlie's ability to see people as they are and his extreme empathy for other people in their situations. So a part that really hit me in part 2 was Charlie's commentary on the cyclic nature of abuse, specifically within his family. His grandmother was abused, so basically two of his aunts were abused, and he's looking at his cousin and he's looking at them and he's going, I really hope that like my cousins that are girls don't grow up to this cyclic nature of abuse, which just the sheer emotional intelligence it takes for at Charlie's age to be able to comprehend that. He also put it into words in a better way than I think I even could. One of the reasons that this book is so great, I feel, is Charlie's unflinching honesty about his observations, about what he sees in the people around him. I also really enjoy the cast of characters. It plays into the whole found family aspect, and that's something I really enjoy. It's a trope I really enjoy, so I've really enjoyed that aspect of the book so far. That's me just finished part 3 of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. The first thing that really stuck out to me in this part was Sam and Charlie's conversation, specifically around consent in relationships. And Charlie is like, is it okay to say no if you're not ready? And Sam says sometimes. I think that's the first time in this book I've actually had a bit of a problem with the messaging. I know that obviously Sam's been through some sexual assault and so has Charlie, but I just want to reiterate for anyone that's read or is going to read the book after this video that it's always okay to say no. You're better saying no if you're not ready than going through something that could potentially be traumatic for you later on. And it's not fair on you, it's not fair on the other party involved either, and you should always say no if you're not ready. So that was the one thing that I had a big issue with in this part of the book. Also, there's another aspect of this book with yet more trauma that was actually left out of the film. So this book really is 90% trauma, and that is when Charlie's sister gets pregnant by her abusive boyfriend. The abusive boyfriend breaks up with her, and Charlie drives her to the abortion clinic. And to be honest, this was one of my favourite scenes in the book. So I would have actually quite liked to see it in the film, I think, but I do understand why they left it out of the film because the film was already dealing with so many sensitive issues. However, Charlie's sister and him bonding in this scene, specifically when she comes out of the clinic and gets into the car and Charlie is smoking, which is something that, again, we don't actually really see in the movie. We don't really see Charlie's dependency on cigarettes and weed, which is a part of the book. Charlie is smoking quite a lot of cigarettes in the car to try and calm himself down while his sister's been in the clinic. And she's like, Charlie, you smoke? You shouldn't be smoking. And he just bursts out laughing. They both end up laughing together. But really what this symbolised to me was both of them meeting on equal grounds as adults for the first time, and it was just a really, really lovely scene to read, despite obviously a lot of the topics that were covered. I'm excited to see how the rest of the story goes in the book rather than the film. So that's me finished, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I really enjoyed this book, but I'm so glad I spread it out for a couple of days because some of the subject matters were a bit heavy. The descriptions of what Charlie's aunt did to him were a lot more nuanced in the book than in the film. In the book you definitely need to read into it, whereas in the film it's pretty much outright stated. That part was really, really hard to read. Also, Charlie's breakdown in the book didn't culminate in a suicide attempt like it did in the movie. It was an interesting addition to the movie. one that I'm not entirely sure I like. That's maybe the one thing that I'm not really keen on in the film now. Also, Charlie's conversation with Bill, his English teacher, is just so sweet. He goes over for dinner at their house, which I did think was maybe crossing boundaries, but Bill tells him that he's really smart and that he's incredibly special, and that if he wants to continue getting books from him next year and the years after, then he totally can. And I just think it's such a nice scene. You also see that Bill's got a girlfriend, so he's not creepy. How could Paul Rudd be creepy? But it does kind of read a little bit that way in the book, which I don't think is intentional. Maybe it's just after I read My Dark Vanessa, all teachers are suspects. I really, really enjoyed this book. Overall, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, there is an abundance of trigger warnings and discussion about trauma in here, so if you don't think that's something that you would enjoy, then definitely skip this one. But if you feel like you can read it, like, I totally would. And I hope you guys that have read it have enjoyed me ranting about the book and telling you some of my thoughts. So that's me gonna wrap up. Let me know down in the comments if there's any other books you would like me to read and react to. I've got some videos coming up for Madeline Miller books and also Colleen Hoover books, and I'm also currently in the middle of the Count of Monte Cristo, so I'm going to be doing a video on that at the end. It's a very big book, so it might be a wee while before you see that video. Let me know in the comments what you think of The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and if you'd like me to do some other books.